Alright guys, such comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Ghosty going at it again after the SupeR Heretics drama that happened this past weekend where they came to blows on the main stage. Ghosty kept it relatively calm in the post-game chatter, but as far as he's concerned, SupeR talked all the trash that he wanted before the tournament. He got what was coming to him on the Sunday at the Major. Can Heretics bounce back for the World Championship? Because Thieves seemingly showed there were levels to this game on the Championship Sunday. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate. Happy birthday to Kremp, of course. For yesterday, these are some more lineman cards, and we're going to start here with the Falcons. So, look, Prid's numbers, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't really aware that they'd won a grand total of 0 hardpoint all stage. 0-11 in hardpoint is abysmal. I don't really understand, I'll be perfectly honest here. I mean, maybe I do understand. I don't really understand how Prid has a 1.02 and has won 0 hardpoints, right? Like, look, I do appreciate that the ARs were getting tucked in the hardpoint and generally in the respawns as well, but look, to be fair, the control was actually in the positive, can you believe? But yeah, Priester had the lowest overall hardpoint KD of any of the ARs at a 0.71. Pred actually had the highest of any SMG in control with a 1.32. His control was mega, like his hardpoint was actually pretty good. Okay, he was getting no hill time, which is fine, like that's the way that Pred plays. But if he's going to get no hill time, somebody's got to get something, right? And that's not what happened at all. So they won 0 hardpoints all stage. They did find a way to, Neslo their way to a top 8 over Seattle Surge, over Vancouver Surge. Exnib was pretty solid as well. His first blood rate was actually the best in the entire league on an SMG and Search and Destroy. And apart from that, he was relatively solid. So, I think it's relatively clear cut here that Prid and Exnib were the two best players. Priester and Nastie was struggling. Priester's numbers in control, actually, even Search, weren't horrific. RC's had a tough time. So, yeah, just a funny one, right? Because at the start of the season, they couldn't win hardpoints. And they could occasionally win a search or a control. When they put this team together, they could actually win a couple of hardpoints. Their other game modes fell off. They've now improved those other game modes to a level better than they were at the start of the season with the Saudi roster, but now their hardpoints back to where it was. So, it's just a recipe for disaster. The question, I guess, really is going into the World Cup, what do you do, right? Are you going to make a move? Are they going to look at these lineman cards and say, all right, enough's enough, we're keeping Pred and X and we're bringing in a couple of other guys? But, what do you do at that point, right? As we said earlier today, you've got the Challengers World Championship going on. You're going to go down there and poach someone. Is there anyone else really available? Could you get someone from some of the other teams? I think, to me, that's the big question as to whether there could be some sort of loan agreements with another team, like let's say a Minnesota or even a Cloud9, potentially a couple of teams that didn't make it to the World Championship, to have a look at them and say, all right, maybe we could sign that guy on a loan relationship for the World Cup, pay him a load of money. They might be happy about it, someone like Sib, but of course, surely Cloud9 are going to want to keep Sib for themselves for the World Championship or for the World Cup, but it's not like he's played great lately, so maybe they'd be open to some sort of a conversation there. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable thinking of Pred that, less than a year ago, he won the World Championship with OpTic, and rather a lot has changed since then. If you'd have told me you'd end up on Falcons halfway through the season, I'd have been like, what are you talking about? How has this led to that point? But speaking of the World Cup, I do want to mention, this is the tournament schedule. So this year, we're in week 3, Black Ops 6. I think last year it was later, in like more, let's say week 5 or week 6 or something. This year it's earlier, so it's pretty much the end of July. July 24th, July 27th. Warzone's a couple of weeks later. Valorant's the first weekends. And this is what it looks like. So, we're in Arena 1, the big arena for the big games, which is pretty tasty, I suppose. But that's where the Call of Duty stuff's going to be. But what they were talking about in this reply, and we've seen a little bit of this, I think, from teams on the timeline, but stay tuned potentially for more. And that is around ticketed fans. So last year, we were there. The fans that were in attendance were pretty much all local fans, which makes sense and is actually great to see. It was a really cool event in the sense that people were coming along with their families, doing all sorts of stuff at Boulevard City, so much to do there, and then they were popping into the esports cities of the whole boulevard, as it were. So there's this like massive, it's like Universal Studios, I guess. You walk through the different areas. You've got the gaming area, you've got, there's a massive go-karting track, there's all the food places to go and eat, and there's all sorts of stuff happening, and it's all in the one area. But then you've got the esports like city of the area, so people can just walk in, and if they want to go and watch the COD or the what is this, Honor of Kings or whatever, they can go and feel free to do exactly that in all of the different studios. But understandably, there weren't that many fans that came over. I mean, if there were fans that came over, primarily they're from Europe, right? Because it's more gettable than from America. But that is, again, the big challenge of what Saudi Arabia are trying to achieve here by creating this tourism industry, by putting on all these big events. And look, maybe it can happen for the boxing and stuff like this, like the big one-off events. Maybe it's doable. Whereas, you know, for Formula 1, maybe, right, you're doing a Grand Prix, people can fly over for it, you know, it makes sense. But to do it for these events, maybe is a bit more of a challenge to get people out there, certainly for esports that are North American based, which obviously are very valuable, but also it's a bit of a journey, right? Like if you're trying to fly from Texas, you're probably talking a 16-hour journey through, I don't know, via Doha, probably in Qatar. If you're flying from LA, you're probably talking a 20-hour journey. Like, it's not easy. And there's a ton of jet lag involved as well, because you're almost going from LA, you're almost going 12 hours around the clock. So it's challenging, right, to get a lot of fans to want to go. And understandably, in the same way that people are kind of having questions on this year's World Championship for lesser reasons, it's a similar type of thing. So anyway, there has been an interesting development lately where the teams, I think, are being told by the World Cup that some of their super fans, they will actually be able to budget in ticketing expenses to bring them to the events. And I guess with the intention to prove that it's a great thing to go to, and then next year people will come as well. So anyway, that's what Krone talks about, that apparently every CDL team, and I think they've mentioned this briefly, some of the teams have, but I don't know if they've really said how many or how this works. I think Toronto tweeted it and said, if you're a super fan, we might send you to the World Cup. Maybe it wasn't Toronto. We've seen a bit of this. And Krone says, pretty sure every CDL team gets to take a bunch of fans funded by the World Cup. Get ready to make content, buddy, because presumably if you're getting paid to go, they're probably expecting you to, you know, post some content or whatever of the event on socials. And Jake Cal says they've just started posting about it. I'm trying to get at least 10 invites across different esports. So I'm not sure exactly what this looks like or how many fans the teams are allowed to invite, but I'm pretty sure this is a thing, that the CDL teams are able to invite, you know, fans, super fans or whatever of their organisation to come over to Saudi Arabia for the World Cup. Now, I mean, just mentioning this, if you're from America and you don't have a passport right now, it might be worth getting one in the post. I don't know how quickly the turnaround is on that, but I know that it's true for a lot of Americans that don't have a passport because they didn't think they ever needed one. But, you know, you probably would if an organisation of your choosing is going to get in touch and say, hey, the World Cup are going to fund you to go as one of our fans. So, yeah, very interesting concept, but something to keep in mind anyway that I thought I'd mention because it's starting to get a bit of traction in recent days. This from Parasite thought was interesting. Whenever Parasite talks about weapons, I always take note of it because he's usually right, or at least he's usually onto something. So he talks about the combat stock on the AR. Now, it's pretty rare that we go into a world championship where the game is pretty drastically different to what it was very recently indeed, right? Like, they've changed a lot in the new patch. The Jackal has been nerfed. The long barrel attachment is now back on the Jackal as well. Obviously, the AR as well, they're making some changes there, and maybe the combat stock is going to turn that around. The spawns in control have been changed. So yeah, Parasite says same ADS as the balance stock, but the flinch resistance at range or when fighting someone on a heady is noticeable. Both heavy and combat stocks got buffed on every weapon. So feels like that might be the way to go. And if that's true, how's it going to change the meta, right? Because we go into the World Championship with, I wouldn't say a clear favourite, but certainly a favourite. But the game could change drastically and it could potentially throw things on their heads yet again. Of course, they're going to be grinding scrims right now over the coming days to get ready for the World Championship, but it's still a big talking point, of course, as teams take a couple of days off to recover before the final push towards the big one, right? So a couple of clips to share for you guys here. There was obviously the Ghosty one on SupeR, we'll get to in a second. Nachot here was talking about every competitor wanting to win, respect the mindset from Scrappy, among others, but also wanted to share this clip from Ghosty where he's talking about beating Miami, certainly on the championship Sunday, because they lost to them earlier in the tournament after their Scrappy gunship drama. The Ghosty says, look, after that match, we had all the drama. SupeR comes on the other side of the stage, throwing up the birds, fist bumps Scrap pretty hard. Scrap grabs him by the shirt collar. The rest is history. And then, of course, when they beat them, they 3-0'd them the next day. SupeR was getting 3v1s. HyDra came over to talk some trash. Scrappy was there. Envoy was there, all getting in their face. And after that, Ghosty then walked over and kind of fist bumped him, but said a couple of words anyway. So, look, Ghosty's obviously going to back his team and says, look, you talk lots of crap. To be fair, Envoy kind of started it. It depends on what you want to say anyway, but Envoy talked about the challenger side, then he talked about SupeR being, playing for kills and all this. So I understand why SupeR was, trying to get his lick back, as it were, when they beat them. But also, SupeR took it pretty far after they did beat them earlier on, so I understand, and, he talked a lot of trash himself, so it goes both ways. I understand Ghosty saying, look, you talk the trash, so you're going to get slammed when it matters on Sunday, 3'd when it mattered, word to Drazah. And then see where we go from there. So, a couple of clips to share for you guys.
I've been around a lot of individual players who are really good and care about those types of accolades, like the MVP. I mean, even if I was competing, if I won an MVP, I would have been hyped.
Listen, Mace,
the first thing that Ernie said after winning MVP, after the first major they won when we were at dinner, he's like, dude, I don't give a about that, bro. I truly don't care at all. I just want to win tournaments. And then he said the same exact thing on stage after he won MVP again. He's like, bro, this MVP, the whole team played unbelievable. We faced a lot of adversity together. We came out on top. I mean, some people don't like Ernie because of how much he talks and his attitude. Like, it rubs certain people the wrong way. But at the end of the day, bro, that guy's just a competitor and wants to win. And I respect that more than you can ever understand, bro. He just wants the team to win. Like, he easily could have one of the biggest egos in the game. And trust me, bro, he knows that he's really good, but he doesn't show it in a disrespectful way, in my perspective.
Think you hope the SupeR nah, I did not say GG though. That's like I literally said bad try. That's basically all I said. I just said bad try. I didn't really have anything else to say. They talked a lot of crap and then got ran on Sunday, so that's really AIDS for them.
One question for you all, and this is an interesting one. Does this current LA Thieves team beat the Vanguard's team that won the World Championship that year? The question really is, what game are they playing, I think would be the question. And there is, of course, a member of both of these teams, and that is Envoy, who is part of both of these organizations, or, well, the same old organization, but, both of these rosters. So this, of course, the current team, Scrap, Envoy, Ghosty, HyDra, they've won now back-to-back events. This team also won back-to-back events in Vanguard, but they won the World Championship as well. This, of course, was Pentagram when he was on the bench, but we had Kenny, we had Drazah, we had Octane, and we had Envoy. Those were the 4 players on the team at the time, and Shane was still here. Like, of course, this is kind of early days of Shane coaching. He came in halfway through the season. This is Shane today. JCap was there, and now he's no longer there. Josh is present in both images, and, a couple of other changes to the staff as well over the last couple of years. Some of these guys are still here. Nature hasn't gone anywhere. I don't think John Robinson's gone anywhere. Mudog's not gone anywhere. Courage, but, they obviously weren't there at Major 4. This is the World Championships. Everyone turned up to it. But intrigued to your thoughts on that, because, in Vanguard, it was a competitive year, but it was definitely a year where, Thieves elevated to an unbelievable level at the end of that season. They were literally unbeatable, I think. Like, no one could touch them at all. They were so much better than anybody else. And even this new Thieves team, it's tough to imagine they could get to that level that team was at on that specific game. But, nowadays, yeah, there's no doubt that this team could be very competitive. They're formed for a reason. The FaZe team today, I think, is better than the FaZe team it was back in Vanguard. So that's another question that always has to be considered. Envoy in the reply says, I wish Scrap could have chow me in Vanguard. Ghosty says, I heard he's not challenging that. So, pretty funny stuff. I guess the answer to that question, we may never really know. These were the power rankings we put together here, just to close out the video. Do you guys think this is fair or fraudulent? In my opinion, there's some interesting things here that look, I didn't vote to this, so the boys came up with it. But, look, Ravens below Falcons, firstly, is interesting, because Ravens are at champs. And I know that they got beat again here at this event, and Falcons actually won a series, but, look, Ravens played if Ravens played Falcons today, am I picking Ravens? Probably I am. I think it's marginal, but I think I am probably taking Ravens over Falcons still. But it's kind of difficult to say. Cloud9, Boston in 8th, Rooker in 7th, but of course not at the World Championship. If you went by the logic of today, the top 8 teams, the right teams pretty much qualified for champs. Apart from, you could argue Ravens for Rocker. If that has been swapped around, then possibly where the teams are today would have been better represented. But of course, that's not how you qualify, and that shouldn't be how you qualify. You should be good over the whole season. Surge, Ultra, OpTic. OpTic up to 4th. Which I think is fair recently. Heretics stay 3rd. The other interesting thing for me is the way that FaZe and Thieves are decided, because Thieves obviously are number 1, FaZe are number 2. The question is in these boxes on the right, and are they both S tier? Is FaZe A tier? Is Thieves S tier? Is there one way or another? Because, like, Thieves beat FaZe, but it was pretty close. And Thieves also did lose to Heretics earlier on. I would be on the verge of saying that they're both S tier, but Thieves are S plus tier. But you know, maybe if you're going to do that, because I do think Thieves are a step above, then maybe it's arguable to say they're S and they're A. Maybe, but if I was to do this, I'd probably give FaZe A+, right? Like, if you're going to give Thieves S, I feel like you've got to give FaZe at least A+, or something very close to where Thieves are, because it's not that clear cut, I wouldn't say, but I do think Thieves are the stronger team as it stands, although that may change in a couple of weeks' time when we go to the World Championship. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.